Timothy Nicholson, and I'm a senior lecturer in chemical engineering.
So from your point of view, what's the significance of this project?
This project is important because a lot of people do need thickened fluids. I have another project I'm working with texture modified foods with RSL Care at the moment, and so from our studies there we know that over a third of patients in aged care need thickened fluids, and the cheapest way is actually to thicken fluids with powders which are on the market. That we can have a much wider range. We can thicken everything from orange juice and tea and coffee to Coca-Cola and wine as well. So happy hours in the nursing homes and the aged care home is possible. But to get the right thickness is important. If the thickness is either too thin or too thick, then it can be a big problem.
So this is something that just average nursing home workers and this sort of thing have struggled with in the past to get a consistent sort of production.
Until fairly recently, there hasn't really been any definitions of how thick it should be. The speech pathologists diagnose and specify how thick it should be, but there was no real standards. And in the last few years, there have been some Australian standards that have been formulated for how thick fluids can be. Now we've got standards, we've now got something we can measure against, and so there is a need for something that is quick and easy so it can be used. At the moment people will follow the instructions of the tin which say add 2 teaspoons to 200 ml of liquid, but how big is a teaspoon? Is it still safe at the end of the day? And if you leave it, particularly in an aged care home, if you're making it up in bulk and then taking it into around the wards or whatever, then is it still safe to drink when it's actually going to be used? And so to be able to at the point of use to be checked, is this safe? Is it in the right range? There is certainly a need. Yeah,
just one final question. So where do you see this product, like the future of this product in Queensland especially?
Well, the reason why we started this is I was actually approached by some colleagues who work for both UK and Queensland Health, and to look for something that they use in particular. Queensland Health are looking at the moment for tendering for thickened fluids and for dysphagia care in all their sites, and the question is, are they going to go and buy the pre-packed material, or are they going to buy powders, and from the various companies that make those, and that is a very large sort of expense and a big area. But if we're going to go for the powders, then some device to be able to check that things are being made up properly. Maybe at first just for training purposes, so that in the first you don't necessarily need them everywhere. You do need something that can go to most of the home, most of the major sites, so that staff who make up the drinks can know they're doing it right. And then later it might move to other uses. But I see it as an aid to training staff to begin with.
Okay, fantastic.
So is that how you became sort of interested in the topic to start with? Did they approach you, or like you mentioned, it was sort of like your
my research area is in the field of rheology. Rheology is the study of a flow of materials. So I'm a chemical engineer. And so how thick something is. So in rheology we call that viscosity. And so I have skills in measuring viscosity of everything from molten polymers to sewage sludge to various things I've done. And so I was approached by the speech therapists at UQ who want to say, well, how do we actually set these? Now we've got these standards, how do we measure against those standards? So do we actually want some numbers in there? So my colleagues, my team here, we talk about millipascal seconds and numbers. Before then, there were sort of descriptions like honey thickness or nectar thickness or pudding thickness. Well, how thick is nectar? How thick is honey? And we need to put some numbers to that for patient safety.